So one of our most popular nectar sources from a butterfly standpoint, and bees as well, is the butterfly bush. And this plant, you can see, has really, really brilliant flowers, and they attract all kinds of pollinating insects. Lots of different species of butterflies. We've seen all kinds of different species of butterflies on this plant. And yeah, if you want to see what different species of insect or bird or reptile or amphibian have been seen in the Gosling Wildlife Gardens, you can find that on our website. It'll be listed there. But this plant it's almost a must if you want to attract butterflies. It's got really nice landing platform for the butterflies to land on, and they really get a lot of nectar from the butterfly bush. This monarch is collecting nectar from the butterfly bush, and it needs to collect a lot of nectar to get lots of energy because it's got a migration flight all the way to Mexico. So the food that you provide for animals, it's not necessarily just for animals that are going to live in your garden full time. It could be for animals that need the energy from your garden or from your backyard so that it can do a migration like this monarch is going to do. This is one of the largest of the skipper butterflies. This is called the silver spotted skipper. And you can see why it's called silver spotted, because it's got that big silvery mark on its lower wing. These butterflies are commonly seen in the Gosling Wildlife Gardens throughout the summer, and they're kind of fun because they can be territorial. So sometimes you'll walk past a certain spot of the garden and the silver spotted skipper will actually fly at you as if it's trying to chase you out of its turf. So they've got a toughness that you don't tend to think about butterflies having. This is a day-flying moth called a hummingbird moth, or a clearwing moth, and you can see it looks just like a hummingbird, but it's actually an insect. So most moths come out at night, but this one comes out during the day and feeds on nectar, much like the butterflies and hummingbirds do. This is a carpenter bee. This is a very large bee that obviously likes the butterfly bush as well. These bees often cause some trouble because they will burrow into arbors and sheds and the edges of railings where they actually make their nests. But they're beautiful bees and very reluctant to sting or anything like that, and a nice addition to a wildlife garden. This insect isn't collecting nectar from the butterfly bush, it's just using it as a perch. This is a small dragonfly called a meadowhawk, and this one is a yellow-legged or autumn meadowhawk, and this is one of the mini predators of the garden. It eats small flying insects and can become quite prevalent in late August and early September. When we're providing habitat in these gardens, we have non-native species and native species. We try to use as many native species as we can because we know that they're going to attract native wildlife. One of the best plants that you can have near a wet area or near your pond is Joe Pieweed. And you can see these beautiful purplish flowers on it. These blooms attract a lot of different pollinators. Just right here we've got bumblebees, hoverflies, honeybees, all kinds of different insects coming in to feed on the Joe Pieweed flowers. They're collecting the nectar, and they are pollinators, which means they're collecting nectar, and some of them are collecting pollen as well, which means when they go from one plant to another, they're going to transfer that pollen to another plant, and that's how the plants reproduce. So they're using these insects as a way of producing seeds. So this is a really nice native plant called spotted jewelweed, and you can see just a beautiful flower. It's tubular, and hummingbirds really like it, and they go, they're able to stick their beak in there to get the nectar source. Another name for this plant is touch-me-not, and that's because when you touch the seed pods, they explode and sort of spring out the seed. So I'm going to try and see if I can touch the seed pod. We'll see if it explodes. Oh, you can see the little springs, and it just pops open the seeds. Sometimes they fling almost a meter away from where you touch them. It's a really nice wildlife plant to have in a wildlife garden because the flowers are late flowers, and they provide nectar for lots of things such as migrating hummingbirds. This is a mourning cloak butterfly. And mourning cloaks are really cool butterflies because they overwinter as adults. So a lot of butterflies, they'll spend the winter in their caterpillar stage or their chrysalis stage, but this butterfly will actually crawl underneath bark as an adult and stay there over the winter, pretty well freezing solid. And then early in the spring, as soon as it warms up, it'll be able to come out and start looking for food sources. So in the gardens, there's not just pollinating insects, there's also predators that are attracted by the different insects in the gardens. And one of the predators, which is still an insect, are dragonflies. And this here, this is a female lance-tipped darner, which is a large dragonfly. You can see how pretty it is. Very, very gorgeous insect. And it eats lots of different flying insects in the gardens. You can just see how wide the wingspan is. Very powerful insect. And it's got very, you can see it's trying to bite me. It's got very powerful jaws for chewing up its prey as well. So we'll see. But they're not harmful to humans, obviously.